Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today we're going to be discussing some of the best VR games, but also solving a problem that I constantly hear in my comments. This is the fact that after a long day, you do want to chill out and play some VR, but you're just way too tired to jump around, start getting all physical, and break a sweat. So today, not only are we going over the best VR seated experiences, but I also have some tips on how you can make the average VR game a little bit less strenuous. Throughout this video, make sure to let me know when you agree or disagree with my recommendations, and I also want to hear your favorite seated VR experience down in the comments right now. Now, there are, of course, links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead, but let's start things off with those aforementioned tips. So the vast majority of VR games can be played seated. However, it's not like typical console gaming where you could just lay back on your couch. If you are going to play seated, I highly recommend a stool that can swivel, or at least a narrow chair that has no arms. Something like the chair that comes with these cyber shoes is absolutely ideal. If you try to play most fighting or shooting games from the couch or an armchair, you're going to constantly struggle to remove weapons from your holsters or to be able to reload your magazines. Now, if you have a ton of extra money to burn and also want to up your immersion and resolve some motion sickness, well then you might want to look into the Roto VR chair. I absolutely love mine for multiple different reasons, but at its current price tag, it's extremely hard for me to recommend. But let's move beyond these simple tips and jump right into those best seated VR experiences. Now, for the platforming fans out there, there's plenty of options, starting with Moss Book 1 and 2. Now, at first glance, you might not think this game is for you, just like I did, but I will say this became one of my all-time favorite VR games. There's excellent pacing, challenging puzzles, a beautifully detailed world to explore, plus a surprisingly emotional storyline that'll leave you feeling like you have a new mouse best friend by the end of the game. So jump right into book 1 of the series, and after you fall in love, know that there's so much more to come with book 2, and it's actually a way better experience. Now, sticking with platformers, we also have Max Mustard. Now, sadly, there's currently a little bit of controversy with this title as it has been removed from the Metastore, but it still currently remains on other platforms, and I'm hoping we'll see it make its way back onto the Quest in the near future. Questers who never got a chance to pick this game up are currently missing a wonderful platforming experience that offers up a lot more than I expected. Not only are there beautiful worlds to explore, but each level is mechanically diverse. And unlike most platformers, it also has a progression system where you could use your coins to unlock new abilities. Now, I personally found the difficulty ramp up to be a little bit slow, or maybe the game is just targeted at a little bit of a younger audience, but overall this is a no-brainer experience for any platformer fan out there. Now, for the older folks in the room that want some mature humor and a little bit more of a storyline, we have Trover Saves the Universe. The developers of this game was founded by Rick and Morty's co-creator Justin Roiland, and Trover Saves the Universe offers up that same type of mature, quirky humor that you get from Rick and Morty. Overall, it's extremely bizarre, wacky, and occasionally ultra-violent. So if you enjoy Rick and Morty, you'll definitely love this game. But there's a lot more out there besides platformers, and let's dive right into escape rooms with the absolutely amazing series, I Expect You to Die. Take on the role of an elite secret agent who's up against a zany instant death around every turn. This game not only challenges you, but will have you laughing out loud as you constantly die in some unexpected manner. The series also has some of the best intro videos I've ever seen and a really fun storyline that keeps you engaged. The life of a secret agent will take you everywhere from a mundane office to the classic car chase and extreme locations like submarines and outer space. The entire series here is absolutely fantastic and should not be slept on. But if humor is not for you and you want a much more seriously themed escape room, you have to check out the Room VR A Dark Matter. Mechanically, it's what you would expect from an escape room. You're solving puzzles, searching for and collecting items that'll be used at a later date, and of course getting stuck, scratching your head, and wondering what the hell you're supposed to do next. The difference here, though, is the high level of immersion and creepy atmosphere, as this game takes place in the early 1900s and is centered around archaeology and Egyptology. Now, this is one of those classic VR titles that a lot of people have missed out on, and it's definitely still worth going back to. Now, there's another unique take on the whole escape room scene that also has a really creepy atmosphere, and that's Silent Slayer. Instead of attempting to solve a puzzle and break out of a room, you're actually trying to break into a vampire's vault and then stake them to death. Similar to where one wrong move in I Expect You to Die can get you killed, the same will happen here, but it'll also come along with a really nice jump scare. Now, as you continue your vampire hunting journey, each coffin will have more and more protections. So not only do you need to remain completely silent, but you'll need to disarm traps, disable magical wards, and follow the proper series of events ghosts, or you're about to be a snack for this vampire. It's definitely a little spooky though, because the tension remains high the whole time, and you're guaranteed to experience some pretty frequent jump scares. But I know many people find that escape rooms are either just too slow paced or just overly frustrating. So if you're looking for more action and strategy, I highly recommend Go Signal, a Stellaris game. This is an extremely addictive space fighting roguelite experience. After receiving a mysterious signal, you'll find your little spaceship trapped in a time loop. In your journey to track it down, you'll experience a randomized series of events, which is everything from increasingly more difficult battles, the opportunity to collect some resources, a series of unique alien encounters, and some absolutely epic boss fights. The combat is highly strategic, and in typical roguelite fashion, you will die quite often, but each time you'll come back a little bit stronger, as you will have the option to unlock some permanent buffs. This is a seated experience that has sucked me in more than any other VR game. I've drained my Quest with battery pack back to back twice while playing this game, and it seemed like time just flew by. So if you're looking for a roguelite title with high replayability and strategic combat, this is a no-brainer. And a very similar experience goes to Battle Group VR. Here, instead of controlling a single ship, you'll be acting as an admiral of your very own fleet. There's a full single-player campaign and online multiplayer battles, and there's also a massive progression system that allows for tons of upgrades and modifications to a vast array of different ships. Overall, Battle Group VR is a badass title, and it's also got some kick-ass graphics. And while we're on the topic of Battle Group, I do want to mention the fact that the sequel was just announced. And sticking with the whole space theme, another one of my favorite titles was Star Wars Squadrons. You get to jump into the iconic cockpits of both Rebel and Empire starfighters. The roughly 10-hour campaign has you battling on both sides, and you'll quickly learn the strategic asset that every single ship brings to the battlefield. Now, I was also in love with the multiplayer for quite some time, but unfortunately, if you pick this game up now, it's gonna be dead. The title was available for consoles, pcvr, and the PlayStation VR 1, and while it had a really good run, nothing was added over time to keep players coming back. The game still constantly pops up at a really high discount though, and it's definitely still worth it for the single player campaign and the ability for co-op custom games. Now, a much older spacefaring title that still has thousands of players is Elite Dangerous. Unlike Squadrons, which is just a starfighter, this is a full MMO. Sure, there are plenty of battles to be had, but you could also take on other roles like Space Smuggler. Now, ideally, this is best played with a HOTAS setup, and just be warned that this is a very deep and complex game. If it's your style, it could be the only title you ever need, but it might be very hard for the average player to get into. So if you like the idea of a flight sim, but you want it to be a little bit easier, well then the easy recommendation is VTOL. Now, it's complex enough that you can't just turn on the game and instantly start flying planes, but the learning curve is fairly forgiving, and it rides that perfect line between sim title and arcade shooter. There's an awesome array of realistic style military planes to fly here, and not only is there a ton of excellent content, but the Steam Workshop also has a massive amount of user-created content. Now, don't let the trailer fool you, the graphics are still quite good in-game, just occasionally things like NPCs will look a little doofy. Now, I'll return to some other sim titles in a little bit when we get to the racing games, but right now it's time to get into tabletop board game experiences. For the true tabletop fans out there, you'll want to check out All On Board. This game offers up one-to-one replicas of titles such as The Binding of Isaac 4 Souls, Rallyman GT, Escape the Dark Castle, Terraforming Mars, and The Hunger. There's also classics like Chess, Checkers, and Parcheesi, but please keep in mind this game operates as a sim. The rule sets of these games aren't actually included. You will have to know how to play the game. So if you want more of a streamlined dungeon crawling experience, you definitely need to check out Demeo. This is up to 4 players of cooperative turn-based action. There's 6 unique characters to choose from, all with their own unique abilities, and the game features 5 separate adventures, all taking roughly 3 hours to complete if you're actually up to the challenge, because it can be a quite difficult game. There's also Demeo Battles, which is a multiplayer competitive version of the title where you build up armies and battle against one another. Now, there's also a handful of casual games that are ideal for seated play, and one that's frequently overlooked is Tetris Effect. We already know how freaking addictive the gameplay of Tetris is, but this VR version just gives it a whole new level of immersion and a bunch of additional gameplay modes, like competitive multiplayer. It really ends up becoming a massive explosion of colors, which can make the overall gameplay feel so much more intense. But if you want to slow things down, there's Puzzling Places, which is exactly what it sounds like. You get to build puzzles in VR, but the developers made sure to utilize the technology correctly, and these are 3D puzzles. Now, I do personally feel like there's a tactile element missing to this game, but overall, if you like puzzles, it's pretty damn great. Now, jumping over to some action-adventure titles, we have the military stealth shooting kayak game, Phantom Covert Ops. Now I know that sounds like a weird combination, but it actually works. You'll row your way through a single player campaign, hiding in shadows, sniping enemies from a distance, and doing exactly what the name of this game states, completing covert operations. Now this wasn't personally one of my favorite games, but I know so many people who loved it, so I had to make sure to put it on the list. Now there's also another stealth-based action-adventure title, and this one's actually free. Republic is actually from Camouflage Studios, the same team that gave us Batman and Iron Man VR. This is a third-person stealth title where you're trapped inside of a government facility, and of course there's a deep conspiracy to uncover. And finally, let's round this video out with some more racing and simulation style titles. For those of you who want to operate some heavy machinery, you need to give MudRunner VR a try. You'll start the game off needing to complete some very basic tasks, and then before you know it, you'll be behind the wheel of some big rigs or towing people out of the mud. But if you want to do some actual racing, the go-to game is Gran Turismo 7. Stunning graphics, extreme realism, a massive campaign, tons of cars. It's just basically a dream come true for so many VR players. And that right there was my recommendation for seated VR experiences. But again, this video was more than just about playing while seated. I wanted to also recommend games that weren't physically tiring. So even if you managed to play something like Blade and Sorcery seated, you'll still sweat your ass off, or at least I would. Now, if you have some other recommendations, drop them in the comments right now. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, consider subscribing.